I really appreciate that art is leading the way here with this building and into the new building. Skwetsimeltxw. My name is Skwetsimeltxw, put on me by my family elders, the Joseph family, and primarily my great-grandmother. And so that was one of the names that came to me, put on me, and with that comes some responsibilities. We get teachings in ceremony about ways of being and ways of doing and ways of knowing and ways of seeing. So it's about how we conduct ourselves going forward. And I think it's one of those things that helped me fit in my role here at the gallery. I started in 2021 as the elder in residence. I'm also one of the artists designing the facade, also on the Indigenous Advisory Council. Well, I'd like to start there because it was 2021, just after Anthony Kendall started as a CEO and director, and reaching out to Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, and the artists, Deborah Sparrow from Musqueam, Angela George, Paul from Tsleil-Waututh, and of course Chief Janice George and myself from Squamish Nation to see if we could help them design the facade of the new building. I remember sharing with Anthony that a lot of places in Vancouver are doing the territorial acknowledgements and welcomings, and I thought, well, that's important, but this is like way up there about the work that he was taking on and he wanted to do. And so as the elder residents, that work will carry on as well, with the staff here now. It's about being inclusive for First Nations, but also people of color. And so when we met with the architects, it came up. And one of the thoughts we had was to develop space for First Nations, Indigenous people to hold ceremony in the building. Something I always felt that Vancouver was missing. When you look at Canada, and we look at almost anywhere in Canada, colonization has affected every aspect of it. It's wound up in all of them. So what I like to think about is that if we can unwind it, the building here, I think, being the courthouse and the history here is a representation of that. I mean, even in law, if we look at the rule of law and how it's been used, and maybe it's abused our people. I think I really appreciate that art is leading the way here with this building. And into the new building, of course, what we came up with is a rendering where the outside of the building would be literally woven. As much along the line of when we teach our students, is that tell a story through the weaving. So when we looked at this building, we thought it would represent our resilience as First Nations, Indigenous people, and it's also representing contemporary art. I believe it's a piece of art that's 20 stories high. But I think it's also representing reconciliation. So when we look at the gallery here and what it's done in a very short period of time, it's only been just over 3 years and made some great strides. Recently we had an exhibit for the 4 artists, Deborah Sparrow, Angela George, Chief Janice George, and myself. A huge exhibit here on our weavings. I think it shows what the gallery and the commitment the gallery is taking to be inclusive of our Indigenous people. For our public, I like them to see that this is a real thing. With the art gallery going in this direction with Indigenous people, and it's Inuit and Métis and First Nations and people of color, that it's shifting. The ground is shifting, and that they can see that and appreciate that. And of course, they're welcome to come participate as the audience or maybe as an artist, so that the doors are opening or they are open, and welcome.